Hello students, welcome to the chapter 2 of Statistics for Economics, and that is collection of data. So in this chapter, let me give you an outline as to what we are going to cover. You'll be learning what are the sources of data, how do we collect this data, and which are the various forms and methods of data collection. So first, let's understand the key terms or the basic concepts which would be used in this chapter very often. First, it's variable. So what is variable? Variable means the value which change, like let's say for example, such as production of food grains per annum. The temperature of the city, again, it is different every day. So that is known as a variable. Next one is observation. Observation is the value of an variable and data is the observations corresponding to different variable. Then what is statistical investigation? It means search for information conducted by using statistical method. Whenever you want to collect some information and when you are using any of the statistical method to collect that data, then it is called as a statistical investigation. The another few key terms like investigator. Investigator is the person who conducts the statistical investigation, and enumerator is the person who helps this investigator in collection of data, because you alone cannot collect all the information. So enumerator is the person who will help you out to collect the data. And respondents are the people whom the statistical information is collected, from whom it is collected. Like let's say for example, if I'm doing a survey for the customers and I want to find out this that who's using my product, let's say close up. Now I take a sample survey of 50 people. I ask them personally that which toothpaste are they using it. Then I am the investigator, or I might be enumerator, and the person who's responding to me is a respondent. Next we have is statistical unit. Now the items on which measurements are taken are called statistical unit. Like let's say for example in kgs or in grams, that is statistical unit. And when we talk about population or the universe, it means the totality of item under the study. Like in the diagram, you can see the whole population, but I cannot do the survey of the whole population. So sample means it refers to a group or section of the population from which information is to be obtained. Like let's say, for example, if I am into the product line of cosmetics, then my sample group would be either women or girls, or the gender would be women. So that is called as a sample, a specific group or a section of population from which information is to be obtained. And a good sample is the one which is smaller than the population and it is capable of providing accurate information about the population at a lower cost and lesser time. So now let's start and understand this chapter, that is collection of data. When you want to collect certain information, there are two sources through which you can collect the data. One is primary source, that is primary data, and the second source of data is secondary. When we say primary, it means that whenever the enumerator collects the data by conducting an inquiry or investigation, they are based on first-hand information. Like just now I gave you an example that if I straight away go and ask the consumer or the sample group of people that which toothpaste are they using it, I'm getting the first-hand information directly from the my respondent. So that is primary source of data. For example, again, you will have to inquire from a large number of school students by asking questions from them to collect the desired information. And secondary data means the second-hand sources of data. Like when I get the information or when I collect the information by referring to various books or online, or when I go through certain websites to collect the statistical information, news, magazines. These are the secondary source of information. So when the data have been collected and processed by some other agency, then it is a second hand information. For example, information obtained from published sources such as government reports or newspaper. So we have two sources of data, primary and secondary. Then what is survey? Survey is the method of gathering information from the individual. So the surveys are done to describe some characteristics like the price of the product or the quality of the product or usefulness of the product. Like let's say for example that if my company wants to do a survey, and especially I want to do it with regard to price and the quality, as to what customer thinks about my price of the product and quality of the product. When I do the survey, I take the sample of, let's say, 1,000 people in my city randomly. And when I do the survey, it means that I'm collecting first-hand information, that is primary source of information. So survey will help me to find out or collect the information with regard to the characters about the product like price or quality or usefulness or popularity. And the purpose of this survey is to collect the data. We can see in the diagram that the census means the whole population. And when you select few people from them for your study, then it is termed as sample. So on the basis of area covered, we can say that there are two methods of survey. One is census survey and the other one is sample survey. Now, when we say census or census survey or complete enumeration, it means that I'm including every element of the population. That is, it covers every individual or every unit in the entire population. The best example of census is when the government official comes and they conduct the census to collect the number of people living in India. That is called census. They do the calculation, collect the statistical information from each and every houses as to what is the what are the numbers of people living in that particular household. So census will cover every element of the population and every individual unit in the entire population. So example, as I said, census of India, which is carried out every 10 years, and this survey are carried for demographic data on birth rate, to find out the birth rate or death rate, the literacy ratio, the population of the country. So the main advantages of this census are the results are absolutely correct, accurate, and they are reliable because these are the first-hand information. And another advantage is that it has less chances of biasness. And thirdly, data related to each element is collected. As I said, that we are going to cover every unit in the population. So it will give you the correct information, the reliable source, and accurate information. But at the same time, there are certain disadvantages because this kind of survey is done on the first hand. You need lot of time, energy, and money to collect this first hand information or primary source of information. So the first advantage is that it consumes lots of time, energy, and money, which is required to collect this kind of data. Second disadvantage is that it is suitable for certain specific cases only. Census cannot be done for each and every operation or activity or the survey which you want to do. Like let's say, for example, if I want to find out about the customer satisfaction, I cannot do the census survey because that would consume lot of time, energy, and money. Thirdly, the third disadvantage is that large number of enumerators are required for collecting data. Now just imagine if I want to do a census survey, that means I'll have to appoint that many people to go about all the city and states, or in that particular city, I'll have to appoint many people to cover the whole range of population, which is again not possible. Next one is sample survey. Now, as I said that when we saw in this diagram that census is the covering the whole population, whereas in case of sample, we are only taking few people or few number of people from the population. Like let's say for example, if I want to do the survey for product which are related to children, then my sample survey is very small because it is confined to children. Or let's say if the product is related to women, then my population sample survey is confined only to that gender. So in this, a sample from the population is surveyed. The first step is selecting the sample to identify the population. So first you need to identify that to whom or from whom you want the data. Then select representative sample, as it is difficult to study the entire population. Just now I said that it is very difficult to study entire population. So we'll just take a representative sample, and from that we will come to conclusion about the majority of the population. Next, so let's move on to the advantages and disadvantages of sample survey. Firstly, the advantage, economical, as only some units are studied. See, this is not more costly, it is economical. When we say economical, it means it is not much costly as compared to the census, because we are not going to cover the whole range of population or all the units of population. We are going to take only few respondents or selective representative sample. So first advantage is that it is economical, which means it is cheap. Secondly, it does not consume much time. And thirdly, less efforts are required as you are going to collect the information only from small group of people. Now, when we talk about the disadvantages, the first disadvantage is that partial investigation of the universe, which means that if the population is 100 and you're going to cover only 20 people, or you're going to take only 20 samples, which means that you're not covering the entire population. So sometimes the data which are collected might not be all the time completely accurate. Second disadvantage is that not easy to select the sample which represent the whole population, because the reason is it's not necessary that what I feel for that product everybody else would feel the same for that product, because every individual is different. But in this case, by taking the sample of few respondents, I'm coming to the conclusion for the entire population, which is again not right. Thirdly, the third disadvantage is that it is complicated process and it is difficult, because you have to choose a group of sample which might represent the whole universe. The another method is questionnaire. Now, this is the most common type of instrument which is used in survey. That means whenever we are using a survey method, there are different ways through which you can conduct the survey method, and one of them is questionnaire. In questionnaire, we prepare a set of questions which have to be asked, or the information which we want from people, then those kind of questions are framed. So this is the most common type of instrument for collecting primary data. So while preparing the same, that is while preparing the questionnaire, the following points should be kept in mind. The questionnaire should not be too long that respondents does not feel like filling all the questions. So it should be apt and it should not be too long. The series of questions should move from general to specific, which means that you start with general and then you move on to the specific information which you want from the respondent. So there has to be a sequence, or you can say that the question should be in order. That means the first question or the second question which you're asking, it should be either related to first, or it should be in the sequence. The question should not be mismatched and it should be logical. The question should be precise and clear. It should not be confusing or ambiguous. And the question should not use double negatives. That is, sometimes you should not try to get the information which the respondent does not want to share publicly with the people. Like, let's say, about the salary. So the question should not be a leading question and it should not indicate alternatives to the answer. Now, let's talk about in questionnaire method itself. There are types of questions in questionnaires. There are two types. One, close-ended, or you can say structured questions, or open-ended. So close-ended questionnaire, open-ended questionnaire. Close-ended questionnaire is also known as structured question, and open-ended is known as an unstructured question. So first let's understand what is closed-ended and open-ended. The name itself says closed-ended means you are giving certain options to the respondent and the respondent have to choose from those options, like MCQs. So it could be two-way questions or a multiple choice question. When there are only two possible answers, it is called a two-way question. And when there is a possibility of more than two answers, it is called multiple question. Like if I ask you that, do you use Pepsodent? Answer is only two-way, either yes or no. Then the next question, if I ask you that which toothpaste are you using, and if I give you the option close up toothpaste, close up or Pepsodent or Dabur or Meswak, now here the options could be multiple. So I may ask you either two-way or MCQs, which has more multiple options. So when we say close-ended questions or a structured question, it means that these are the options which are given to the respondent and they have to choose one option out of that. So we are not giving any open-ended question. They have to choose from the selected options. And when we talk about open-ended, it could be descriptive type. So when person gets a chance to talk more about any topic, like let's say for example, if the question is asked that why do you like XYZ product? The reason is descriptive type. There cannot be any option. So that is open-ended question. But here the problem is it is very difficult to evaluate and analyze in case of open-ended question. So let's differentiate between close-ended and open-ended. It is very easier to compare the responses of close-ended. Like I can easily compare that which product is used most by the people or the respondent. It is easy to interpret, easy to score, and easy to codify or analysis. Just now I said that it is difficult in open-ended question to analyze or to interpret or to evaluate the respondents and come to a particular conclusion. Like let's say for example in closed-ended question, if I ask that do you like XYZ product, the answer is either yes or no. But whereas in open-ended question, if I ask you that what is your view about globalization, every person would have different perception and different answer for that question. So it would, when if I get the, let's say if I collect the data of 100 people, now it would be very difficult for me to analyze, interpret, and come to the conclusion of this descriptive type of answer, which is in the open-ended question. So in open-ended question, it is difficult to interpret, difficult to codify for analysis, difficult to score. Now let's talk about mode of data collection. Now that we know that we can collect the information through questionnaires, that is the survey method, and what are the different modes of data collection. The first mode of data collection is personal interview. And in this method, the investigator conducts the interview personally face to face and collects the information. So under interview method also, there are two types of interview: direct personal interview and indirect personal interview. In direct personal interview, investigator conducts face-to-face interview. Like the investigator directly meets the respondents, collects the information from the respondent. Whereas in indirect personal interview, data is collected by interviewing the third person who are directly or indirectly concerned with the subject matter of the inquiry, and they are witness to this situation. So here we are taking the information either directly or indirectly from the third person who is related to that subject matter of the respondent. Next is personal interview. In the personal interview, as I said that just now I explained you that personal interview is face to face, or you're getting the information directly from the person. There are again certain advantages and disadvantages for the same. And the first advantage is that the information which is collected is high degree of originality, because you have got the information directly, so the information is reliable and it is very easy to administer. And elastic method, as necessary adjustment in the set of questions can be made. Like, let's say for example, if I'm taking a direct personal interview of a respondent, and if I feel that this respondent is very rigid, is not answering, then I can make changes in my questions, or I can, there is a flexibility in in interview, in the personal interview, that by knowing the respondent, by knowing the kind of behavior or attitude, I can have the flexibility to change my questions. Sometimes it may also happen that the respondent is not ready to share certain information, but those information are necessary for my data research or data collection. Then accordingly I can take the measures to ask the same question in a different way, or I can make the changes in the questions and ask in such a way that the respondent answers me indirectly. So this kind of changes can be done in case of personal interview, which is an advantage. The disadvantage is that again it is very costly, because you'll have to hire people, you will have to send people directly to take the interview of the person. So it is costly and time consuming, and it cannot be used where the area of study is very large, because it's not possible to cover the whole population. It is highly prone to personal bias. Like, let's say for example, there is a personal bias because the interviewer can do certain amount of manipulation while recording or while collecting the information from the respondents. So it requires that the investigator is skilled and trained enough to collect all the necessary information from the respondents. The second mode of data collection is telephonic interview. In this method, the investigator asks the questions over the telephone itself and try to get the information through the telephone. The advantage of this method is it is cheaper and it takes shorter time as compared to the personal interview, and they allow researcher to assist respondent by clarifying the question. And thirdly, it is helpful where respondents are reluctant to answer question in personal interview. Sometimes it may happen that respondent is not comfortable face to face. So in this kind of telephonic interview, sometimes it may happen that respondent feels comfortable to answer over the telephone rather than personal interview. And the disadvantage is that obstruct visual reaction. If, let's say for example, if I'm getting the information from the respondent through telephone, I cannot actually know what is his reaction with related to that question. So visualization is not possible, because in personal interview I can face to face know the reaction or the behavior of the respondent, which is not possible here in telephonic interview. The another disadvantage is that it excludes the population who are not having telephone connections. Because let's say, for example, if there are people living in rural areas or backward areas, they might not have telephone connection. So this kind of population or this kind of people cannot be covered for conducting a research or to get the data or information. The third mode of data collection is mailing questionnaires, which is widely used nowadays. Whereas in this method, the required data are collected by mail. So the questionnaire is sent to each respondent by mail with a request to complete and return it back by a given date. This is very much less expensive, but and that is one of the advantage. It also allows access to the researchers in remote area, because you are sending the papers through mail, so they can receive the mail, they can write the response and then send it back to the interviewer. But the major disadvantage is that there is possibility of misunderstanding the question. If the respondent doesn't understand the particular set of questions, then there is possibility that he will interpret that question to be something else and answer it in a different way. The second disadvantage is that it produces low responses rate, because majority of the population might not reply back or send back the responses through mail. So, and here the data are not reliable because you are not getting the information face to face or through the telephone. So as we said that the mode of data collection could be personal interview, telephone interview, mail survey, and the latest one is internet survey, which we can see online. And we would have, while browsing over the internet, many times that the sample surveys are being conducted. So these are very quick, they are automatic, because the data entry or the data which is entered, automatically data entry is done, and it allows for the real-time data collection and multiple choices and open-ended question. Now the disadvantage of this internet survey is that it is possible to reach this kind of responses or collect the information from people only who are using internet. The people who are not using internet or who are not well acquainted with technology, those amount of population will be left out for collecting the information, which is a major disadvantage in internet survey. The another is many people dislike receiving not related surveys. Like let's say for example, every now and then when we go through the internet or when we browse the various websites for our work, many a times there are pop-up advertisement for surveys. Now sometimes it may be irritating and the respondent might not respond to that survey, which is again a disadvantage. So next, pilot survey. Now let's understand that what is pilot survey or pre-testing. Now, as we know that these are the various mode of data collection. Now, when you want to do a pilot survey, it is also called as a pre-testing. So it is a trial survey which helps to test the effectiveness of the questionnaire. Like let's say, for example, I have framed a questionnaire which is having a set of 10 questions. Now, to find out whether those 10 questions are effective or not, I will do a pilot survey or pre-testing. I'll take 5 people as a sample. I'll do the pre-testing and then I'll try to analyze. So when I do the pre-testing, I'll come to know that which are the things which are missing in the questionnaire, or which are the information which I'm not able to collect through this question. So all these problems or obstacles can be eradicated when we do the pre-testing. So this pre-testing, as I said, it's a trial survey which will help to know the effectiveness, that is how effective the questionnaire is. So the pilot survey is very important because it helps in pre-testing. It helps us to know the shortcomings or drawbacks of the questions, and it will also help in accessing the suitability of the questions. That is whether the questions which are asked are clear or not, whether the instruction given are clear or not. Because we have framed the questionnaire, sometimes it may happen that we might not know the shortcomings or drawbacks of certain question. But when the respondent is answering those questions in the pre-testing, then they may come up with the suggestions which might be helpful for our questionnaire or for making changes in the questionnaire. So let's talk about methods of sampling. Now, when we do the pre-testing or sample survey, as I said, that it will help to come over the shortcomings. Now, we also need to know that what are the methods of sampling. The first method is random sampling, which means that samples are selected randomly. In this method, every individual unit has equal chance of being selected. Like let's say for example, in a class of 30 students, out of that 30 students, randomly I'm picking up 10 students and I'm taking the survey of those 10 students. So here in this kind of random sampling, the every individual unit has equal chance of being selected. Now Under sample or random sampling, we have various other methods. One is lottery method. In this method, all the items in the population are assigned a distinct number, and these are written or identical piece of paper and put it into a ball, and samples are selected randomly. Like let's say for example, same one, all the 30 students are there in the class. I write all the 30 names in a chit of paper, different chit, that is 30 chits, and I place that in a jar. I pick up randomly any 10 chits, and those 10 people or the students would be selected for sample survey. So that is lottery method. Next one is table of random numbers. In this, random numbers are arranged in rows and columns which are selected on the basis of population size. Third one is exit polls. It is used to predict election result. In this technique, a random sample of voter who exit from the polling booth are asked who they voted for. So we can also take exit polls. So this was all about random sampling and the various methods of random sampling. The second is non-random sampling. Now, when we say non-random sampling, in this, all the units of population do not have equal chance of being selected like how they had in random sampling. Like there are various methods under this also. One is judgment, purposive, or deliberate sampling. So here the sample units are selected consciously by the investigator on the basis of his judgment. So this method is subject to personal bias. Like let's say if I want to ask certain questions, I know all my 30 students, but if I want certain information and I know that this kind of information surely Yash Patel knows it very well, and I pick him up as a sample, this means that I am being biased because I have already judgment to with regard to the information which I would be getting it. So judgment, purposive, or deliberate sampling. Here, as I said, the population do not have equal chance. The another is quota sampling. Here, the investigator is allotted definite quota and he is required to collect the required data from a specific number of unit of each quota. The third one is convenience sampling. So here the investigator collects the sample units on the basis of his convenience, which is again very much biased. So now that we know the methods of sampling, there are two: sampling method and non randomly and non-randomly. And now when we talk about the errors in both the methods, there are certain errors in statistics, and there are certain disadvantages. So first let's study about sampling and non-sampling error. So as I said, that error in statistics is used to denote the difference between the true value and the estimated value. So errors can be classified as sampling errors and non-sampling errors. When we say sampling errors, it means the difference between the actual value of a parameter of population, which is not known, and it is estimate is known. So it is possible to reduce sampling error by increasing the size of sample. And when we talk about non-sampling error, it includes error in data acquisition from recording incorrect responses. So when the responses are not recorded correctly, then it falls under error in data acquisition. Then we can also have non-response. It occurs when interviewer is unable to contact person listed in the sample. Like let's say for example, I selected 10 people, but out of that 10 people, I'm not able to contact 3 people in that list. So that is a non-response. And the third one in non-sampling error is sampling bias. Now this occurs when in a sampling plan, some members of the target population could not include. So that is again another error. Now, when we talk about certain agencies of collecting the secondary data, we all know that there are few agencies of collecting the secondary data, and First one is Census of India. That is, it provides the most important and complete demographic record. So Census of India, the information which is collected by them, that is a primary source, but it acts as a secondary source for us because that data is useful for us to know the complete demographic record of the population. And these are conducted every 10 years, and the census official collect the information on various aspects with regard to the population, the gender, the literacy, migration, etc., which are used to interpret and analyze to understand many economic and social issues in India. Another one is National Sample Survey Organization, that is NSSO. Now, this was established in 1950 under the Ministry of Finance to conduct the survey and collect data on estimates of literacy ratio, the school enrollments, or maternity or PDS. So, all these data are collected through NSSO. Like here in the diagram, we can see rural versus urban consumption. Now, this would help us to understand that rural and urban compare both the consumption. We can see that rural it is less and urban it is more. So NSSO and Census of India are the two, national agency which helps us to collect the, get the information, and both act as a secondary source for us. Thank you very much.